have a quorum present. We will start this morning with Senate File 37006, which is my bill, and I will turn the gavel over to Senator Chamberlain.
Senator Weber, you have Senate File 3706, and I understand no amendments, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
You should proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and members, I bring to you Senate File 3706, which modifies the first tier valuation limit for agricultural homestead properties. Well, the last time there was a legislative adjustment of this, I think goes back into around 2010 or 11. At that point, it was adjusted to slightly over $1.14 million. We have seen agricultural property values increase substantially, particularly in the last few years. And this bill would raise that first tier valuation limit to $2.5 million. And which of course puts a larger amount of the homestead property into the first tier valuation. At this point, Mr. Chair, I would like to turn the testifiers table over to Caitlin Pals. She's an attorney from the New Ulm area, and she'll have her present her testimony regarding this bill.
Thank you, Senator Weber. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name and who you're with. For the record, you may begin. Thank you.
Good morning and thank you. My name is Caitlin Pals, and I am here on behalf of the Minnesota Pork Producers Association. As Senator Weber said, I am an attorney from New Ulm, Minnesota, about 100 miles southwest of here. And I specialize in working with farmers with estate and succession planning, trying to keep family farms together for the next generation in a way that keeps farms strong and also is fair to non-farming children, as more and more children are not staying on the farm long term. The proposed bill, as Senator Weber said, would reset the starting point for what property qualifies for, or how much property qualifies for the Ag Tier 1 valuation limit per agricultural homestead. This amount is adjusted every year by Minnesota Revenue based on statewide changes in values, but it just hasn't kept up with the realities of what a modern commercially viable farm looks like that supports even just one family. In my area, the average acreage that would be covered by a current Ag Tier 1 limit would be about 250 acres. This bill would probably change that to adding about 80 acres to that basic homestead. It's going to be different in every county because every county is going to have a different kind of base value for what the land is, but about that percentage of expansion is what we would see. This doesn't change the taxation of the home itself. Farmers pay taxes on the house, garage, and 1 acre the same way that residential homesteads do. This simply changes the taxation on the first, now instead of $1.89 million worth of production property, to the first $2.5 million worth of production property. This would make a significant difference to the average farmer. The USDA published that the average operation in Minnesota, and this is not necessarily commercially viable operation, but the average operation is 377 acres. So we're talking about homesteads that are smaller than what the average operation is in Minnesota being covered by this. The tax savings to those who are receiving the additional agricultural homestead Ag Tier 1 valuation are spread out over other types of property, including the non-agricultural homestead property and the agricultural homestead property that is over the $2.5 million limit. So it really is targeted at helping the small to medium-sized farm family. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pals. So just from my understanding, so this just means that the taxation starts at the 2.5 million, right?
It means that the classification rate of 1 starts at the 2.5 rate. They still pay taxes on the first 2.5 million. They just pay it at half the rate
Right.
that non-homestead or property over the 2.5 million is.
Yep, thank you. Thank you. So we have one more testifier, Ryan McInthune. Thank you, Ms. Pals. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name and who you're with for the record. You may begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Ryan Mockington. I serve on the Minnesota Soybean Growers Association as their secretary. I farm in Brownton, Minnesota with my brother-in-law, and we run a fifth-generation corn and soybean farm that's been around since 1887. I appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of SF 3706, which would modify the first-year valuation limit for agricultural homestead. SF 3706 sets the first-year limit assessment year 2023 at 2.5 million. This means that outside the house, garage, and 1 acre of agricultural homestead, the remainder of the agricultural homestead farm property, such as mine, is divided into 2 tiers. For small to medium-sized farms, the 2.5 million valuation limit only covers 250 acre homestead on land that costs $10,000 per acre. Not only would this bill assist small and medium operations like mine, it'll also help benefit Minnesota farmers because we are constantly competing against private investors that are driving up our market. In conversations with my ag lender, he told me that today about 50% of farmland is owned by private investors, where 20 years ago it was 75% were owned by farmers. So we can consistently keep losing our operations. As many as you know, land prices have skyrocketed in recent years, which has caused the property tax burden for farmers to increase as well. Farmers are also absorbing a lopsided share of rising inflation and record input prices, creating a situation in which producers are being hit hard in the pocketbook. Active farmers continue to lose out on infrastructure, their farmland, we need to grow our farms. By easing the tax burden of people like myself who actually farm the land, it helps keep family farms around longer for the next generations. It's my personal belief that family farms care more for the land than private investors who typically are only out for a return on their investment. As a farmer, it simply doesn't pay for me to buy agricultural land anymore. I will never see the return on that investment. If my children decide to take over the farm, I will assist them. I will assist them in them buying land and utilizing the young farmer loans. If they don't, I will sell off my equipment and maybe possibly reinvest it in more farmland, but time will tell for those scenarios. In Minnesota, if Minnesota wants to promote family farming and not corporate farming, changes need to be made to the existing law. The current situation is untenable and prevents farms from sustaining a livable wage. I think about my father if he was still alive. I would not only have to help with his medical bills, assisted living costs, but also pay him rent. Simply put, the financial health of my operation would look much differently. I could not afford the equipment I have. It's a sad world that to be able to succeed, transition can only happen upon death of our loved ones. I'll close with a story about a friend of mine whose dad is in his 90s. He told me his dad said to him once that the best thing for their operation was if that he wasn't anymore. That's a terrible position for farmers who need to take over the family farm. To give us the best chance to succeed in the future and help keep economies in greater Minnesota profitable. I urge the committee to support the legislation that helps farmers throughout our state. Thank you to the committee for allowing me to speak before you today.
Thank you very much. We do like family farms. We need to keep family farms. So thanks for coming down. What's town are you in?
Brownton, Minnesota.
Where?
Brownton, I'm just south of Hutchinson.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, thanks for coming down and taking time to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Members, any questions? All right, Senator Weber, final?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, I just want to comment, I would turn to the property tax note that came from the Department of Revenue. They're estimating that the average tax decrease for the family farm would be approximately $1,200. And so at this point in time, with the issue of rising costs that we're seeing on the farm, any assistance that is available is certainly welcome. And so I would appreciate the hearing on this. And Mr. Chairman, members, thank you very much.
You're welcome, and you may thank yourself for the hearing because we gave it to you. So, yeah, thanks to the testifiers for coming down. Any little bit helps, Senator Weber. Thank you. So with that, Senate File 3706 will be laid over. Thank you. Okay. And you are going to stay there, Senator Weber. You have
Yes.
one more, Senate File 3808.
3808, thank you.
And you have an amendment, I understand.
There is an A1 amendment.
All right, author's amendment, no doubt.
Yes.
Looks technical. Members,
is.
this A1 author's amendment, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, Senator Weber. You may begin.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members, this bill deals with homestead property as it relates to family farm corporations, family farm limited liability partnerships. We had a bill a few years ago, Mr. Chair, when you chaired the full tax committee, that dealt with some of these issues, but there seem to be further clarifications that are needed. And so in light of the technical nature of those type of things, I'm just going to immediately turn the testifier table over to Ms. Pals.
Good call, Senator Weber. I was reading through this thing and thought, okay, we need a little help. So thank you, Senator Weber. Ms. Pals, welcome to the committee again. Please state your name, who you're with for the record. You may begin.
All right, thank you again. I'm Caitlin Pals. I am here on behalf of the Minnesota Pork Producers Association, and again, I'm an attorney in Newell, Minnesota, who
You pull
works
that mic a little
primarily-
bit closer, Ms. Pals.
who works primarily with
There.
farmers. So the qualified farm property deduction is an estate tax issue, but it also ties into property taxes because in order to get the qualified farm property deduction on death, the farmer's land has to be classified as ag homestead, specifically Class 2A, ag homestead on their death. That's why property taxes come into play here. It is important to farmers, we just discussed, to have the ag homestead property classification just in general for property tax purposes, but it is particularly important because of this estate tax piece of it. The changes that were made a few years ago made it much easier for farmers to maintain agricultural homestead long-term, particularly if mom and dad move to town and a son or daughter or another family member is farming the land on their behalf, and particularly if a farm family uses a partnership or corporation or a family farm entity of some sort, which is very common in kind of modern farm succession to try to have some fairness in terms of maybe not only the farming child is the only one who gets the land 100%. Maybe we have a partnership that owns the land and then rents it to the farming child long-term. And then also operations being in corporations or other entities, both for liability protection, which is something that any small business is going to want, and also for just ease of administration. You know, for example, when two brothers are farming together, being able to pool their resources into one corporation rather than one brother owning the combine and one owning the sprayer. So that's why we have these structures in the first place. The two provisions that are being proposed to be changed are basically cleanup items from that earlier legislation to just clarify that in general, we want to allow farmers to be able to continue these kinds of long-range planning tools, but also be able to maintain their ag homestead qualification. So the first change is to section or subdivision 8D. And what this situation is a farmer puts their land into a partnership or other entity, but they keep their house and possibly some other acreage outside of that entity. And this is a very common setup. Farmers may want to gift part of their land or bring the children into owning land, but they typically don't want to rent their own homes from their children while they're living. In this scenario, practitioners have tried to get agricultural homestead. We feel that it's consistent with the general tenor of the rule, but have not been able to. The counties have been instructed by Minnesota Revenue that no, if you have a parcel outside of your partnership that a farmer is living on and that it itself would be qualified for agricultural homestead, you have to take agricultural homestead on that parcel. You cannot apply it to your partnership property instead. So what this would do is it would link an agricultural homestead that the farmer was living on to property owned inside of a partnership. Now, this doesn't actually change the property tax consequences at all, because this scenario is already one where the farmer can ask the county for an Ag Tier 1 classification. So what we were just talking about, that first $1.9 million worth of land getting the 0.5 classification, they already get that in this scenario. All this law would do would be to change the classification so it says agricultural homestead rather than saying Ag Tier 1, so it would work with the estate taxes. So I do have another piece to talk about. Maybe we want to pause and talk about this piece first.
Time out. So, go ahead, Ms. Powles, we'll go ahead.
Okay. The other piece would be a change to 14B, and I believe this one is a little bit simpler. I said simpler. So we already have the ability for agricultural homestead if an individual farmer owns land, they live in town within 4 cities and townships, and a family member farms that land, and that family member also lives within 4 cities and townships. This would clarify that that family member could farm in the name of a corporation that they own, a family farm corporation or partnership, and there would still be qualification that they need not farm just in their individual name. That's all that this does.
So, Ms. Pels or Senator Weber, so essentially what we're doing here is, what's important is the familial relationship here and transference, right?
Right,
Not the organization that they happen to be under,
exactly.
but just their relationship as sons, daughters, something like that. That's the important thing you're trying to keep here, because maybe mom and dad decide to move into town, and yet, so they're far off, but they want their other, so their sons and daughters to work the land.
Correct.
That keeps this going.
Right, and this isn't that big of an expansion. We already do this in a lot of scenarios. This is just cleaning up the couple scenarios that my colleagues and I have run into that we have found to be gaps in the rule.
Mr. Steinhoff says he understands it, so I'll be quiet. So, any members, any questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, Senator Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your explanation. Can you, in language we could all understand, talk about what the consequence would be if we don't make these changes?
Ms. Pels?
Sure, so the consequence of not making these changes is that some farmers will lose their agricultural homestead when they move to town. And that's a very common occurrence. It's very hard to live out in the country in your 80s and 90s. It's just a reality that folks have to move to town sometimes. And that qualified farm property deduction is up to $2 million deduction from Minnesota estate tax. So we're talking, you know, potentially $250,000, $260,000 estate tax difference. And for a couple, that would be doubled. So it would expand the number of people who could maintain their agricultural homestead long-term.
All right, thanks, Senator Murphy, you good? Thank you, Ms. Pels. So again, I believe I understand it to be, as Senator Weber said a few years ago, this had to have some cleaning up. But farms, you know, we talk about corporations and big farms and big businesses and corporate farms. So like the family farms got kind of wrapped up in that sort of thing. And even though they might have the partnership or family farm corporation label, they're not a big corp. They're still family, right?
Exactly.
And that's what we're trying to maintain.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you. So Senator Weber, anything else?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this bill, in conjunction with the other one, I think is extremely important as we look at the transfer of ownership of the family farm. From 2017 to 21, I served as the chair of the property tax, the Ag Policy Committee, and as a result, I also served as a representative on the Mail Sea Board, which is the Minnesota Agricultural Leadership Council. And within that board, we have our farm management people that provide adult farm management training to farmers. And you know, quite frankly, the transfer of property and operations to the next generation is one of the largest problems that's in the agricultural industry right now. You know, sometimes you have grandpa and grandma involved, you have their child involved, and then you have the grandchild that's coming into the operation. You know, and as values escalate, it makes it more difficult because you cannot necessarily just give people the property, because then you have a gift tax situation that arises. The middle generation, the children, sometimes I've referred to them as the Prince Charles of agriculture, because they're there and actually approaching the age of retirement, and yet they still aren't fully in charge of the operation, just because it's the difficulty of getting that transfer done from a financial aspect. And so I just think anything that we can do to it isn't going to solve the issue, but to make it somewhat more tenable is something that we should pursue. So, and with that, I would ask for your support of this eventually, so.
Thank you, Senator Weber. This was enlightening. So, Senate File 3808 will be laid over as amended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Senator Ress, and then Senator Klein will be after that. I'll return this
Thank you.
heavy responsibility back to the chair, Weber.
Good job.
We will turn to Senate File 3192. Senator Rest, welcome to the committee, and you may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and colleagues. Senate File 3192 proposes some changes in the market value exclusion for homesteads. A number of years ago, we made a change from one system of trying to benefit homeowners to the market value exclusion. And right now, it is starting at a valuation of 76,000, which probably doesn't apply to a whole lot of homes anymore, but 40% of the value of the first $76,000 is eligible and is given an exclusion from its taxable value, and that amounts to, if you want to follow along with on the revenue estimate, of $30,400. From there on, as the value of a home increases up to currently $413,800, a decreasing amount of the market value is excluded until it reaches that $413,800, when then there is no more, there's no further valuation exclusion. Just as we are looking at any number of other tax policies that are both in property taxes and in the income tax realm, like for credits, for example, or Social Security, or a definition of household income, moving that from household income to AGI, like we did several years ago with TCGA, and we went away from taxable income as a starting point for Minnesota individual taxpayers to a starting point of adjusted gross income. So too, it seemed to me that it was time to review the valuation exclusion, which had not been changed since it was first put in place, I think, and Mr. Sylvia or Mr. Arneson, I think about 10 years ago or so.
Mr. Chair and Senator Rest, it was enacted in 2011.
2011, yes, thank you. And so, so this is kind of updating that, given the current market for homes and et cetera. So what it does is moves that, the starting point for the exclusion to $80,000, and you will see that on 80,300 on line 111, and then raises the maximum amount on line 1.12 to 437,100. So what does this do within the property tax system? Well, certainly, if there's no involvement of the state, it provides for a shift, because we're not giving any more LGA or transition aid or anything like that. But I think if you read through the revenue estimate, you see that it's actually very minimal. It doesn't start until next year. And also, because they won't have the same level of property taxes imposed, it also means that there is less of a property tax refund, because their property taxes haven't gone up. So if you look at again, at the revenue estimate, you'll see a positive, and in this instance, it's the other way around. We usually think the positive means money to the state. In this instance, of $1,610 that will not be quote claimable on the property tax refund program, because those folks received a bigger market value exclusion. I think it's interesting also in their description that right now, 1.3 million homesteads receive and qualify for some part of the homestead market value exclusion. And the total exclusion itself statewide is 23.58 billion with a B. So this is, I believe, modernizing the market value exclusion, taking into account what's happened with the market value increasing even this year for many people, and yet and losing more and more, obviously, as well, of the market value exclusion. So that's the proposal. It's not it's not a revolution. It is simply paying attention to what has happened in the market for the sale of homes. And I appreciate the work previously done by Mr. Arneson in giving some background to me as I was preparing this bill. So that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Rest. First, any questions, members? Mr. Arneson, I had a conversation with Senator Rest as it relates to the amount of the increase, which is relatively modest in light of what property values have done in recent years, and the increases. And we see a continued strong demand for residential property actually throughout the state, probably primarily because people wish to take advantage of the interest rates while they're lower yet. And as we hear projections of increases coming in those rates. But is there any type of rule of thumb as to the shift, and for every $1,000 of increase that you know, what kind of shift we would create in the local tax structure?
Mr. Chair and members, I believe for the purpose of the revenue estimates, the Department of Revenue does kind of annually identify some sort of rule of thumb to this effect, you know, for reductions to the tax capacity levy, for example. You know, any shift is going to fall in part on homesteads that would qualify for the homestead credit refund. A shift is going to fall in part on commercial properties that might have an interaction with some sort of income tax return. I will need to dig out the most recent memo on that, and I can circulate that to the committee. But for the purpose of the revenue estimate, sort of in a general average way, there is such a rule of thumb. Of course, it's going to vary somewhat by local jurisdiction, depending on the composition of properties in that jurisdiction. And so the, particular impacts might be different, quite different from the average impact identified in a revenue estimate, but I will find that and circulate it to you and committee members.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, I would appreciate that. I think all of us as senators have heard from our constituents, the rise in real estate taxes is certainly caught their attention, I think, particularly for our seniors. And anyway, if there aren't any further questions at this point, Senator Ress, final comments.
Well, thank you very much for taking a look at a bill that's similar in motivation as others we're seeing this session of bringing a formula up to date. We talk about the LGA formula, probably going to wait on that, but every once in a while, every 10 years, is certainly not too fast to think about relooking at formulas that we have in law, and particularly, I'm hoping that you'll look favorably on changing the market value exclusion part of the property tax law.
Thank you, Senator Ress. With that, Senate File 92 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you.
We turn to Senate File 3185. Senator Klein, welcome, and you may proceed when you are ready.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. And to begin with, I would like to offer the A1 amendment as an author's amendment.
Very good. Members, you have the A1 amendment in your packet, and this would be, as stated by Senator Klein, an author's amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Thank you, Senator Klein. You may proceed.
Yeah, and just to explain the A1, Mr. Chair, it simply updates the calculations for the February forecast when the bill was originally drafted under assumptions under the November forecast. Purely technical. The bill itself is an update to the Homestead property tax credit system. For 2022, homeowners with household income of $119,789 or less can claim a refund up to $2,930. This bill specifically lowers the co-pay amounts homeowners must pay before the refund kicks in by 5 to 10% depending on income. It increases the maximum refund amounts by $300, and it reduces the income threshold percentages that determine eligibility by 0.1% for income ranges between $21,410 and $33,120. The intent is to soften the blow of property tax increases for low and middle income earners. And Mr. Chair, I have two testifiers. You'll also see in your packets that we have letters of support of the bill from the League of Minnesota Cities and from AARP.
Thank you. Thank you. First, we have Mr. Paul Eager from Senior Vice President of Government Affairs at the Minnesota Realtors. Welcome, sir. Please identify yourself for the record, and you may proceed when ready.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Paul Egger, Senior Vice President of Governmental Affairs for the Minnesota Realtors Association. We're the statewide trade association for around 21,000 real estate professionals working with buyers and sellers every day. Mr. Chair, just before I get to Senator Klein's bill, just to your last discussion, I know you, Mr. Chairman, follow the market very closely, but it is an extremely challenging market right now, very low inventory. In February, there were only a little over 6,600 homes on the market statewide, which is incredibly low. And the median price of a home, not surprisingly, is a little over $304,000. So very, very challenging market. which is a good lead-in, I think, to this discussion as well. Senator Klein did a great job explaining what the bill does, and just want to offer our support and thank you for hearing the bill, and thanks Senator Klein for bringing it forward. The Homestead Credit Refund Program simply makes housing a little bit more affordable. Saving money for a down payment and actually purchasing your house are the first steps in home ownership, but being able to be a sustainable homeowner means being able to afford your property taxes as well. And this bill certainly, in this program, certainly does a good job of helping homeowners whose property taxes are high relative to their income continue to be successful homeowners. If you look at the Minnesota Department of Revenue's 2021 Minnesota Tax Incidence Study, on page 33, there's a reference to the property tax refund program. I'll just read it briefly. It's one sentence. And it's, quote, the property tax refunds, and this is for 2018, offset 12.8% of residential property tax burden, and the refunds offset a much higher portion in the lowest 5 deciles. So just a kind of an empirical bit of evidence on how that is helpful to homeowners, particularly at the lower income scales. One of the strengths of the Homestead Credit Refund Program is it provides policymakers with different options for providing support to homeowners. And Senator Klein described in his bill what it does, but you have, increasing the maximum refund, you can decrease copayment percentages, you can lower the threshold percentage for determining eligibility, you can also increase the household income for eligibility. And another strength of the Homestead Credit Refund Program is because it is a state-paid credit, it doesn't shift property tax burden onto other homeowners or other types of property. So with that, again, thank you for hearing the bill, and Senator Klein, thanks for bringing it forward, and hope you can find a way to continue to support and increase your support for the Homestead Credit Refund Program. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Eggert. With that, we'll then turn to Nan Madden, who, Project Director at Minnesota Council of Nonprofits. She is joining us through Zoom. Please identify yourself for the record, Ms. Madden, and you may proceed when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Nan Madden. I'm Director of the Minnesota Budget Project at the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to testify today, and thank you to Senator Klein for bringing this bill forward to strengthen the Homestead Credit Refund. We believe that the path to a stronger, more equitable recovery is through investing in Minnesotans, their families, and their communities, focusing on those who were hardest hit by the pandemic and the challenges that preceded it. We know that all Minnesotans want safe, affordable homes for themselves and their families, but some Minnesotans who are earning lower wages or are on fixed incomes struggle to afford both the cost of housing and other basic necessities. Property tax refunds that the state provides to renters and homeowners help bring down one of the costs of housing for workers, families, seniors, and people living with disabilities. These refunds are targeted based on income, and they prioritize those for whom property taxes make up a larger share of their family budgets. They are a powerful tool that put a limit on how much of a person or a family's budget can go towards paying property taxes. I particularly want to support and lift up the components of this bill that are directed towards low and modest income Minnesotans, including first providing larger refunds by lowering the copayment component of the formula for calculating their refunds, and increasing the maximum amount of property tax refunds that Minnesotans can qualify for, which will reach those whose property taxes are particularly high in relation to their incomes. These provisions would provide a needed economic boost to many Minnesotans who have faced hardship during the pandemic and are still struggling during this uncertain and unequal recovery. Their local communities will also benefit as these Minnesotans spend their property tax refunds on basic expenses. I appreciate the benefit this bill would have for lower income homeowners. I'd also ask you to consider similar expansions for the property tax refund for renters as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. Members, any questions for the testifiers or for Senator Klein? Seeing none, Senator Klein, final comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee, for hearing the bill, and I'd appreciate your support.
Thank you. With that, Senate File 3185 as amended will be laid over for possible inclusion. Members, that concludes our hearing agenda for today, and we will We will adjourn until next week. Thank you very much.